Okay, so there's gonna be a lot of voice recording, voiceover sort of thing, because I didn't want to talk as the customer was on a conference call on the other room. So we're doing a basic, half bath pedestal sink. We're replacing these stops, which were obviously in very rough shape. The faucet was pretty much shot, so the customer bought their own faucet, and we are in the process of now removing the old faucet and getting ready to obviously install the new ones. We're gonna put two new shut-off valves right there, and then obviously make it look nice. Because right now they put a foil piece of whatever to hide the fact that it's actually a copper pipe underneath that, on that drain line, the thing that has the white, shape trap there. So I guess they put that to quote unquote, make it look decent. Obviously, it looks like a little bit of dog shit, so we're gonna change that. So right now, what I'm doing is basically just removing the set screws that are placed to hold the pedestal sink together. Now, there's a couple of reasons why you obviously want to remove the pedestal sink in order to do this work. Number one, unless you have elastic-like and small hands, you'll never be able to remove the drain assembly, the pop-up, and the faucet properly without removing the top of the sink. Now, a pedestal sink typically comes in two different pieces. You have the bottom, which is the stand, and then the top. Those two pieces usually separate from each other. Very rarely are they going to be all in one piece. Now, this particular one had bolts that went directly into the back of the wall, and you basically just bolt up the porcelain, and you attach it to the back of the wall. Now, in other cases, sometimes they give you a bracket to mount these sinks into. The bracket one's kind of easier because it's kind of like you bound the bracket, and then you can safely place the sink on top of that bracket, thus attaching to the pedestal or the bottom piece. Now, yes, it was a tight area in here as I'm trying to take this apart. So right now, the reason why I haven't pulled the top of the sink off yet is because I have to undo this one nut here that I typically don't want to do, the one that is more exposed, just because I know I'll have a lot of water coming out of there, and I really didn't have a proper way of catching it all, and that's wastewater. So we want to avoid to try to get that all over the floor. I mean, again, I could clean that up, but this was just like a preference thing. So again, nothing crazy. The reason why I decided to take the one that I'm taking off is because if you decide to take this one off that is more exposed on the outside, you now have kind of a hook there that you have to deal with when you're removing this, right? So I just decided to take that one off just because it would be, I guess, in my mind, easier because it's just a straight piece going down. So right now I'm just having a hard time. My big ass hands try to, get in the back of that thing and try to take it off. Not the easiest of tasks, but we're getting there. So clearly now we managed to get the sink off. As I'm pulling it off the wall, you can see right there. Just be very gentle when you pull it off the wall. Obviously, there's all porcelain material, and I am in a half bath situation, so you want to make sure you don't bang it against anything. Just kind of, be very gentle with it. So right now I'm just trying to set it outside where I had a tarp laying down and some other protective stuff for the floor for the homeowner. And then momentarily, there we go. So now we are now just cleaning the area. It was very, very dirty on the bottom. Like you'll see, like when I'm scraping up, there was black, nasty gunk that's probably been sitting there for God knows how long. Right there on the scraper, you can see that all that black stuff in there. It was kind of nasty, not gonna lie. I just keep on scraping everything off, and then basically the next 5 minutes would be me just cleaning up that area. You can see, trying to scrape off the tile. Be very careful with the tile, obviously, because you don't want it to fall apart. But you do want to get it as clean as possible, especially because now everything's open and exposed. You do want to be able to, just get the area as clean as possible and prep it up for the next sink. Now, feel free to skip over this. Just me cleaning it until the part where I start removing the existing, stops in there. Which, by the way, obviously the water's up to the house right now. Now, this is kind of important for the future. Keep in mind, the water is off to the house. However, I open up all the sinks in the house in order to just drain the house down, right? Keep that in mind because it's kind of important later on in a kind of funny yet stupid thing that happened to me. But you'll see later on. Feel free, like I said, feel free to skip through the cleaning process. Again, I just like to clean everything just because you want to make the job look as best as possible. And obviously it's all taken apart, so you might as well just, do a good job. Just clean everything and do things as you should. So again, feel free to skip over, and then once I get to start to unsweating those stops. Okay, so right now I'm just kind of prepping the area where I'm gonna be introducing the torch in order to unsweat those stops, because these are stops, angle stops, or shut off valves, however you want to call them, that are sweated or soldered into the actual pipe. So there's compression, there is sweat, and then there is press ones. If you use a pro press or things of that nature, try not to use shark bites. Again, I don't recommend those. So I'm just prepping up the area just to kind of clean it off, be able to get some heat in there and be able to take it out. Fairly simple. Now the cold side, right, and you'll see the cold side, which is the one that I'm cleaning off right now, as it shows in the video, that comes out relatively quickly and fairly easy. The hot side, however, is you'll see what happens. Okay, now that we have our handy dandy torch and everything's cleaned up and everything, there I showcase the little flame action, but you'll see that the I'm gonna start to apply heat into that particular valve, which is going to then obviously start melting the solder that was once placed there. No matter how old solder is, you heat it up enough, it'll eventually start to melt again at the melting point of that particular solder. So you're gonna see that I'm covering up the trap assembly because that is plastic. You want to make, and I did wet it in the well, you can kind of guess where I wet the rag, because I think it's showing the video. So I started applying heat, and it just takes a few little seconds, and I get a little bit of like some water that kind of starts to heat up and escape through the valve. But again, if there is no water in the line, and again that is key, there is no water in the line, you should be able to relatively be able to set apply heat. Once you start to see the solder taking more liquid form and change color, you'll be able to do just this, twist it up, boom, out. Okay? Okay, so by this point I hope you're lowering the volume, which is that like noise of the torch can be pretty annoying. So now I'm trying to attempt to do something to the hot side, okay? So I managed to get it, hot enough. Again, it's taking a bit a lot longer than the cold side, so I know there's water sitting in that pipe. Now I didn't have any bottom sinks to the basement, anything like that, so again, I am most likely on the lowest point right now of the water. So in my mind, I'm like, all right, well, maybe I'll just blow back the water, so I can just, temporarily just be able to heat this enough where there is no water in the line, and be able to then remove it and continue on, putting the valve. So my thought process, I just had to blow it out, get back into the line, and that's it. So again, feel free to skip for the next, I would say 2 minutes, give or take. So when we get to the good part, because basically I'm going to run out in my truck around minute 15, and then we'll be back to about minute 16:30. So feel free to skip to 16:39, and I'll come back from the truck after I acquire my little CO2 pump to be able to blow the air back into the line. Okay, so now we're back. I went to my truck, got the little CO2 gun right there. Basically, I use this to clean out condensate drains for the AC season. Very handy. I come up in my maintenances and just use that to clean out, stuff. Also, it works very well on steam boilers to clear out any clogged drains or anything like that. But again, you'll see here real quick what's gonna happen. Yep, that happened. So my dumbass got soaked because you can see it in my face how I'm like, yeah, that was a stupid move. So basically, just so you understand what happened there, I blew it through the hot side. In my mind, I'm like, all right, it's gonna go back out. It's not gonna be such an amount of water left in the line where I would just be able to, briefly heat that up and remove whatever else in the pipe. Nope. So even though it's hot and cold, and essentially what happens is your water tank still acts like a kind of a central point for the two. So it doesn't really matter if it's hot and cold. Your lines are still the same, right? Especially when you have them open to the system the way I have them. And I have all the faucets open in the house. Therefore, you had eventually feed to the cold and vice versa. So if I blew through the hot, essentially what's happening is going through the tank, back out the tank, pipe, and out the other end. So I was still getting, water coming back. And obviously now I took out the valve and the whole floor is wet. So at this point, it becomes a lot of cleaning up. I'm just, brushing everything out, cleaning out the solder, just to kind of make sure. Yeah, that was a stupid mistake. Again, you live and learn, but I didn't think there was that much water in that pipe, but obviously there was. So feel free to skip over for the next, I think, 2 to 3 minutes where I'm basically just cleaning all this up, and then we'll get to the point where we start putting the new valves in, and I'll show you guys the process of doing those. Now, I did not record the process of installing a new faucet in the sink and all that stuff. Again, that's probably gonna be just a separate video. Right now, we're just putting in, 2 new valves and a little bit of plumbing action. Nothing crazy, but yeah. So now we're back. Everything's cleaned up. Everything's good to go. We're gonna be in the process of installing the 2 new valves. My dumbass can't find a way to mount the phone properly, so I can just record and do his thing. There we go. Okay, we got it. All right, so. Again, now I'm just cleaning up everything, taking that nasty looking foil off the copper drain pipe, so we can properly, make it look good at the end. So again, feel free to skip over. I'm just gonna stop talking now so you can just kind of see what I do. Now these are compression stops, okay? So what I'm showing right now is the nut and the ferrule that go together, and this basically compresses to the existing copper pipe, and then making a tight, joint essentially. So keep in mind though, you have to have enough pipe in order to compress the two sides together. You can't just, have enough pipe so where the nut goes in. You have to have also a small amount of pipe to where the other end can fit nicely up against the other valve, the front of the valve. Because what happens is if you don't put enough, line in the valve itself, what's gonna happen is you compress nothing essentially. So when you turn your water back on, you are gonna have a lot of water coming out of there because that valve is gonna pop right out of the pipe. So make sure you have enough pipe on both ends. When you put the nut and the ferrule in, you put the valve in, you give it a nice little push so whereas you know that you're up against the front of the valve, and then you can start to obviously tighten up your valve and your nut until the point where it's nice and snug and tight, and you'll know you have a good compression joint. Now, at this point, this wasn't included in the quote that I had given them, but again, it's not a big deal, and I like to make my stuff look, somewhat decent. So now what they have unfortunately coming off the wall is about 2 or 3 inches worth of copper pipe that just stubs out of the tile. Now that obviously attaches to the current existing trap, which I'm now trying to remove in order to get a new escutcheon into the wall, or essentially the tile, so I can make it look a little bit nicer instead of using that nasty foil wrapping paper they had or whatever in order to cover that. So I put 2 new escutcheons on the valves, 2 new valves. Those are quarter turn valves up there for the hot and cold water. Now I'm just trying to make the drain look a little bit nicer. So I'm going to end up putting 2 escutcheons essentially in that. One's going to be a bigger plate in the back, and then one's going to be a deeper escutcheon to hide more of the copper that is currently exposed in there. And then, yeah, so make it look a little bit nicer. So right now I'm just in the process of cleaning up. The job is pretty much halfway done. Outside I have to mount the new faucet and new pop-up and stuff, and then put everything back together. But this is just to show more of the two water stops and the drain assembly, and that whole process behind removing a pedestal sink. But yeah, I mean, at this point I'm halfway done. Again, another video will be the installation of the faucet and stuff. But yeah, like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more.